Welcome to another episode of Mornings with Maren. This morning we are going to make some animal masks following along with our critter bookmarks from last week. So the one I have an example for is our unicorn. So I made this one. So you can see it's got a crown of different stars and flowers and things like that. So for this one I just did some different colored construction paper shapes. And then we've got the ears and of course the most important part, the horn. But today we're going to walk through making a lion. So I've got my paper plate here, most important. You can use, so I've got a styrofoam one, but you can use a paper plate if you've got one. Got my construction paper, my tape, and then I'm going to do a little bit of painting. So I've got my yellow paint so that I can paint the mask. And then to cut styrofoam, it's a little difficult to cut with scissors, so I do have an X-Acto knife. But if you have a paper plate, it'll be easier to cut with scissors. So let's get started. Step one is to cut a hole for your face. So we've got our face hole right here. So we've got to cut a hole for our face and our lion. So you can make it bigger if you've got a bigger face. If you've got a smaller face, you can make it smaller. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut around this natural line that it has. So I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and just cut around the edge. Alright, I'll pull that part out. And you can even use this part to make a different animal. So I made a zebra out of my last one. So you can save it or you can throw it away. But now we've got space for our mask. The next step is going to be decorating this outside. So you can see for my unicorn, I left it white because my unicorn is white. But for this one, I'm going to use some paint, some yellow paint, and I'm going to paint it yellow for the lion's face. You can use markers if you prefer to use markers. I'm feeling a little paint today, so we're going to paint this first so that it can dry while we're cutting out our sheets of construction paper. So we're going to go ahead and paint the front part of this all over with yellow paint. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to put some construction paper on there to make the mane. So we're just wanting to color it so that we're not leaving any white space because there's not going to be any white space on the lion. And we've got our yellow painted. So I'm going to set this aside and let it dry while we do the construction paper part of our mane. So I'm going to make sure that I don't get any paint on the table. And so for my mane, I'm going to make it brown, but you can also add some oranges if you want to add orange. You can also add some yellow in there as well, but I'm going to do just brown for this one, and then it'll change based on what kind of animal you want. But for this one, I'm going to cut some strips about an inch wide, and there's going to need to be enough strips to go around the entire paper plate, so that's going to be the full mane. So I'm going to cut several of them here, so I'm going to cut them in these long strips, and then I'm going to cut them once in half. So you can kind of cut a couple of them at a time to save some time for you. And again, with these, they don't have to be the same size or width. They can be a little bit different because they're not going to be all the same going around the face. So I've got a stack of strips here and I'm going to start cutting them in half. So I'll have these halves. Perfect. So we'll see if that's enough, and if that's not enough, we can always cut some more to make it all the way around the face. Now the next part, I'm going to kind of curl the ends here so that it'll really shape the face. So I'll pick this up gently, and so it's going to kind of curl in. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to use a pencil, or you can use anything that's kind of this shape. So you could use a marker, and we're going to just roll the piece of construction paper just a couple times. So we're not going to roll it all the way down, because we want it to have enough room that we can tape it onto the back, but about halfway, I would say, and then we're going to take the pencil out. Notice how it kind of keeps that curl. So we're going to do that with all of our strips. So again, we're just going to roll about halfway and then let it go, and it holds that curl for us. So if you're doing both brown and orange, you could alternate, or if you're like me and you're just doing the brown, then it doesn't really matter what order you're going to put it around. All right, so I went ahead and I curled all of the strips that I already had cut out. So I cut out a full piece of construction paper, and I cut them into about 1 inch wide strips and then cut them in half. So my mask is still a little bit wet, but I need to turn it upside down to tape on it. So I'm going to put it on a piece of paper so that I don't get any paint on the table. Got some paint on my finger though. We're wanting our curls to face outward, so we're going to tape as if they're going to face outward like this. So we're going to tape it onto the back. You can make them stick out a little further, or you can make them stay in. I'm going to tape it right about there so that it's even, because if we tape it where the paper plate kind of goes in a little bit, it'll be pushed back. So I'm going to tape it right about here where the curve stops. Just like that. So we're going to go ahead and tape all of these all the way around. So it'll take you a little bit of time. Taped around. So just for your reference, one piece of brown construction paper got me all the way around my paper plate. So I kind of taped them on here. Some of them are a little more secure than others, so if you wanted to add more tape to make sure that some of them didn't wiggle around, but you could pretend that your mane is blowing in the wind. So it just kind of depends on what you're going for. My paint is a little wet still, so we'd need to let this dry, but this is going to be your lion mask. So you can walk around with it holding it, or if you want, you can put holes in the sides of your paper plate and you could tie some ribbon, and then you would be able to wear it without having to hold it up. So say you can make a lion, and if you have a brother or sister, they could make a tiger, and you could basically make a whole zoo. So we've got our lion, we've got our unicorn. So drop in the comments, let us know which animal you make. That's another episode of Mornings with Maren.